Hey guys, I just got home from a session a little bit ago, which is why I have no makeup on and I'm not in dress clothes anymore. But I thought it would be the perfect time to kind of talk about what happens after your session. I think that it's really common to think that once the session's over, that's it for the photographer. And that's not really true. Actually, a lot of work goes in on the backside after your session's done. So I thought it might be really interesting for you guys if I took today to kind of show you what we do after your session is over, because there's actually more stuff that happens than you probably realize. So the first thing I do when I get home from a photo shoot is I take my camera and I plug it into my computer and I start pulling all the images off my camera onto my laptop. Once that process is done, I begin what we call culling. This is where I go through all of your photos and begin to narrow them down to my favorites. So what this would mean is, say we have multiple images where, in this case it's Maya. Maya's in the same pose, but maybe she has a slightly different smile, or maybe she's blinked, maybe one pose was a little more flattering than another. I would narrow these down to the ones that I would consider the best, and then try and make sure I have a diverse grouping of photos. Sometimes this goes really fast, and sometimes it's a little more complicated. Um, and honestly, it depends on the type of session too. Some sessions I'm showing clients 25 to 30 images. Some of these senior sessions where my seniors bring more props and different outfits and things, those can have as much as 90 images that I finish and show the client. So with this particular session, I do have a lot more images to go through, and it can make it a little more difficult in narrowing it down simply because of the number of photos I'm looking at. I believe with this session I shot about 300 images, and I did narrow it down to 90 that I liked, that I thought were different enough. So what I'm showing you here is me actually going through my software and narrowing these down. And what you'll see is I kind of flip back and forth between photos that are similar a little bit and try and decide which one I like better. So it's quicker to do it this way for me because I can kind of do it relatively quickly. A lot of times pictures that are similar are side by side, so it makes it really easy to just hit the plus sign to keep it or the minus sign to get rid of it. Again, depending on the type of session and how many images I take, this process of culling images down can take anywhere from maybe 10-15 minutes to 40 minutes for really big sessions. In this case, with narrowing down the 300 plus images to the 92 that I chose to edit, it took me about 18 minutes. And that was because I had to go through twice because I didn't feel like I had narrowed it down enough the first time. So anytime that I have to do a second round of cuts, that always makes it take a little bit longer, because then I'm really getting nitpicky between photos that are very similar, but maybe an expression is different, and trying to decide which one is the better between those photos. Once I get them narrowed down to my favorite images, I will set it up so that I'm only seeing my favorites. Then I will select them all and save them and rename them into a new folder called Choices. I do this because then I still have all the original photos in their number order in a file called Originals, but then I also have the separate folder that's numerically ordered for editing purposes, and they're separate. Keeping them separate makes my life a whole lot easier, and it makes the editing process a lot faster. So the next thing I'll be showing you is my behind the peak at editing. Once I've narrowed the pictures down to my favorites, I then go through and select just one to start with that I will edit and share on social media, usually Instagram. So what you're going to see here is me kind of spinning through, finding the one that I'm going to edit, and I'm going to then show you how I process this real quickly. So I always open my files up in Photoshop. I'm not a Lightroom person. And you'll see I have a lot of action sets over here. Now there's one action set that I've created for myself that does the edits that I would normally do to a portrait anyway. So I run this base action on every single image, and you can see how it auto did all these steps for me, which is a huge time saver and a great benefit to speeding up my workflow. I also will then go through and kind of tweak the settings a little bit, because while this tends to fit pretty well for most of my images, every once in a while it does need some little tweaking to make it look the way I want it to. So that's what I'm doing now. And I honestly don't do a lot with my portrait work as far as like photoshopping them, because I think it's more important to showcase who you are, and I don't want you to look plastic or fake, or I don't want the image to be distracting either. So I do run action that helps with blemishes and things like that. Maya has such beautiful skin, it's not really an issue, so I just really lightly touch up her skin, and then the next thing I would do is brighten her eyes. I do that on almost all of my images, just to really suck you into the individual's eyes, because I think eyes are beautiful and I want that to be the first thing you see. So this is me masking off her skin to apply that skin action very selectively and minimally to her. And this is our eye step. And you'll notice it's very subtle. It's not a huge dramatic thing. I'm not trying to make her look any different than she normally does, just to enhance the natural beauty that's already there. And then once that's done, I save it to another folder called Official, and that's where I'll save all of my edited files. I also want to take a second and show you how I might edit a different image that has a little different editing style. The last one I showed you was my more traditional portrait edit process, but every once in a while I do take images within the session that are a little bit different and unique that I want to play with a little bit in post. So we had this awesome glow coming from the sunset behind Maya, and I knew I was going to have to enhance this a little bit, just because the trees kind of created a little bit of an issue with getting the look that I wanted. So just like with every image, I run my base editing action set, and then I'm going through and I'm trying to find sunbursts and flares that I think might fit right onto this particular image. Then it's really just a matter of pulling them into the photo and playing with them and seeing what's going to lay right, what's going to look right, if it gives the right color tone that I want, if it applies the right contrast levels that I want, and just tweak with them, maybe applying more than one layer to see what I can get that kind of fits the image that I have in my head. Now this does take a little bit longer than my standard processing, simply because the regular portrait process is quick and it's the same system every time. Whereas with this, I'm playing and making little minor adjustments and trying different blending modes and things like that to see what's going to look the best. Which is why I don't do it to a bunch of the photos in the session, only a select few. And when I do this as well, I go in and fine tune things, which is where you saw me remove that little lens flare orb that was on her neck, because I found it a bit distracting. But once I get it to where I like it, I just go ahead and save it, and into that official folder, and we're good to go. Now, this is just a quick sampling to show you a couple different ways I edit my pictures, but that's 2 images from a session that had 92 images. So I will be going through the other 90 photos from this session and get them all retouched before my client ever sees them. So after I edit all those pictures, really the next steps are to pull them into my video creating software and create a video. And then after that, I pull all of the photos into our ordering program. And that's kind of all boring, and I'm not really going to take the time to show you that today because I don't think you'd find it all that interesting. But it is extra steps that we do. And you know, each little step along the way adds time, which is why when you go to a photographer who takes the time to custom artwork or images, it's going to take a little time between your session and when you get to actually see your photos and place your order. I feel like with most of my sessions it can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks for you to see them. And while that might seem like a long time considering what we just talked about with how long each step was taking, when you consider in all the other clients that we're working with, the paperwork that has to be done, any driving, phone calls, emails, social media, all the other aspects of actually running the business, it all congeals together, and it does actually take that full week to 2 weeks for us to get that work done before you can come in. So I do it as quick as I can because I do get really excited about working on your images, and I try to get you in as quickly as I can because I don't like making you wait, because I don't like to wait. So I hope you found that kind of interesting and that maybe it was something you didn't know before and now you kind of do. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Please leave them in the comments below, and I hope you all have a fantastic week. Bye!